A pleasant good morning to everyone and welcome once again to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Today's guest menu looks like this. Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day. He's first up in hour number one. Following Brandon B.J. Jones will be Morrell Mo Carter, sports director of WZDX in Huntsville, Alabama. Then, hour number two, we look like this. Coach Van Pettaway joins me in hour number two. But last but not least, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. That's what the guest menu looks like on today's edition of the Carlos Brown Show. Simply what's trending. A couple of things, a couple of items. Well, it's official. Prime time. Coach Deion Sanders. Well, I guess he wants to be addressed as Coach Prime, so I guess I better fall in line on that one. But, well, no, on this show, Coach Deion Sanders. Now, the head football coach at Jackson State University. I'm going to be getting your opinions on this. I'll share my opinions as usual, but I definitely want to hear from you on today's show. It's official. Prime time is coming to Jackson State in Jackson, Mississippi. Also, on a somber note, Gail Sayers passed away this past week at age 77. You know, as a little kid growing up, yes, I was young at one time, much younger, in the backyard in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, me and the brothers and the neighborhood kids, it was always a time when you could look, of course, when time permitted, to see 6 or 7, 8 kids in the yard playing football, being active. And Gail Sayers was just a popular guy to emulate. You know, just give me 18 inches. He could cut on a dime and give you 9 cents change. This guy was just tremendous. And of course, injuries stopped a career that would have been even better. And doing some reading this morning, something I didn't know, and I don't know how many of you knew this. I'm pretty sure some of you knew what I'm about. I know what I'm about to say. Was the director of athletics at Tennessee State, 85 to 86. I didn't know that. See, you can always learn something. But Gail Sayers, he's journeyed from this physical life, and boy, just what a athlete, what a person Gail Sayers did at the age of 77. That's what's trending on today's Carlos Brown Show, and I'm sure there are other topics out there, but we're going to spend, I have a feeling, the majority of the time on today's show talking about Coach Sanders. I pulled up an article from HBCU Sports.com and Kendrick Marshall, and it's a very interesting article, to say the least, and won't go through it in its entirety, but there are some bits and pieces in there that is very, very interesting. The bottom line is this, and I told Dr. Prince before the show, here's one of the times I have to be balanced, and here's what I mean. I'm a sports host. I'm also an alum of Southern University, and you guys know how I feel about Jackson State. If you've been listening to me for almost 2 decades, you know how I like to get after Jackson State. But I don't want to be considered a naysayer or a hater. So let me say this first and foremost. Congratulations to Jackson State University. You've hired a football coach. And when Jackson State is doing well, it's great for the conference. It's great for HBCU sports. Now, we can get into opinions But the fact is simply this: he is the head football coach at Jackson State University. I can throw out a cliche, time will tell. As far as, can you call this a good hire or a great hire? There's more to this than just, wins and losses, but ultimately, that's what Coach Sanders is going to be judged on. I, like most of you, I saw the press conference. Wow. You know what? It was like pass the collection plate. It was a spectacle. It really was. But you know what? I didn't expect anything less. But I must admit, I thought about Coming to America, the movie. The scene when the limousine pulls up and just entourage. It was what it was. And we'll look in a few years and look at the progress of this Jackson State football program. Now, there are going to be some things that add on, questions about the staff, and we can only look at the press conference and comments by Coach Sanders. A lot of experience on his staff, and it'll be presented to us in a little while. Recruiting, we see the impact of that, and then we're going to see the impact of ticket sales, financially, the excitement, and all of that is outstanding. So once again, congratulations to Jackson State. Now, I remember I said about being balanced. I don't want to come across as saying, okay, because of the rivalry that you personally have, like I'm on the field, against Jackson State, that it will cloud your judgment. Well, I hope I don't do that on today's show, but I'm going to depend on you guys from each guest, get their perspective on this hire. A couple things to ask. How big is the Deion Sanders hire? The impact on, and I've heard these terms and these words put out there. It's huge for Black college football, HBCUs, the landscape. So these are some of the things that I hope you guys will be able to address with your comments or questions. 7 minutes after the hour, Dr. Prince, let me say good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. How are you this morning?
I'm doing fine. Thank God I'm among the living.
Oh, yes, indeed. That's you and I both, my friend. You and I both. So I'm listening to your opening statements on today, and I want to make sure that I get this right. It's going to be a balancing act for you personally to get through today's show, right? Okay, and I think when we look at the grand scheme of things, either it's going to be on one side or the other, regardless of you're pro-Deion, anti-Deion, and a lot of people would be pro or con for whatever reason, going back to the playing days and the antics. Either you were a primetime guy or you were not a primetime guy. And the fact that he happens to be coming to the SWAC, I think people are going to be on the defensive side of taking it personal or accusing one of being a hater per se, because it's us and not y'all. And I think there has to be a balancing act on both sides of the coin from whichever perspective you're looking at.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wish people wouldn't use the term being haters, but
that's
looking
the
at
choice word. That's the choice word.
Yeah. Well, and looking at social media, sometimes that can get really, really feisty. So with that being said, even over the years, seeing hires from other institutions in the conference, we have a habit of, and I've been guilty of this before. See, I don't speak of these things and don't point back at self, saying, oh, what an outstanding hire. And then you come back and say, well, on paper. Then you look at the body of the work, and then whatever time period that is, 3 or 4 years later, a progress report on how well that coach is doing. Some coaches have started out well, didn't end well. Some coaches didn't come with as much fanfare, but did an outstanding job. So ultimately, you'll be judged on wins and losses. Also, putting student athletes in a position to be successful, and then that's what you look at the end of the day. What is that time period? 3 or 4 years, maybe. So it'll be interesting. But I will say this, and I've already got a couple of text messages. And by the way, if you want to leave a comment or a question, I simply just have the Carlos Brown Show Facebook Messenger page open. A lot of you communicate that way. We've talked about the impact of multiple hires. We talked about FAMU and Bethune-Cookman coming in the conference and making the conference even more competitive. So with that being said, I'll end and we'll go this time out. The bar has just gotten increasingly hotter for the coaches, student athletes. It's going to be very competitive. I'm going to take a time out. When I come back, the first guest of today's show, Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day. I'm going to get his perspective. I'm going to be a listener. I'm going to ask a couple of questions and get his perspective on the hiring of Coach Sanders, primetime, to Jackson State University. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Come on.
Laptops, MP3 players, cameras, video games, cell phones. In times like these, schools can become a shopping mall for thieves. Don't become a victim of crime. Leave your valuable stuff at home, and if you do have to bring them to school, keep them with you. Write down their serial numbers, and don't flash expensive items around. Be smart. If you have something cool, there's a good chance someone else will want it too. Keep cash and ATM cards in a secure place, and never give anyone your PIN number. And don't leave your school bag lying around where it can become a temptation to someone else. If you have something stolen, report the situation immediately. The sooner you tell someone, the better the chance you'll get it back. Visit ncpc.org to learn more about how to prevent school theft. That's ncpc.org. A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council.
Your education, your health care, your community, your future. Your vote counts for many things. Take control. Get registered. Get educated. Get out and vote. Learn more at www.vote411.org. This is a public service announcement from Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Can you feel it? Dun, 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 dun. Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. That is the Southern University Human Jukebox. And you know what? Hey, as I bring in my guest, good morning to you, Brandon B.J. Jones. How are you, sir?
Man, I am doing pretty good this morning, man. I got a good report on Mama, so all is well.
You know what? That is outstanding. I've kind of been keeping up with it from afar. And, hey, our thoughts and prayers are still always with you, brother.
Man, I definitely appreciate it.
Well, with that being said, a lot of people are appreciative of what has been going on lately. Of course, the big news, unless you were off in Jamaica somewhere where there was no radio or television, BJ, and that wouldn't be bad right about now.
No, it wouldn't. It would not.
Yeah, the primetime news, Coach Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, now the head football coach at Jackson State University. Quite simply, BJ, what does, in your opinion, what does this hire mean? What does it mean to you?
It's a high risk, high reward hire. The reward right now for Jackson State is here. You got a lot of eyeballs on Jackson State. You got a lot of TV cameras that normally aren't in Jackson, Mississippi, and they're there. You got a lot of people who want to talk to the head coach at Jackson State who ordinarily will want to talk to the coach at Jackson State. You got a lot of attention on Jackson, Mississippi that ordinarily wouldn't be there. All right. So turn on the TV this week. You had Jackson State on ESPN a couple times. Coach Prime will be on Fox Sports, their college football show this morning. They talked about it on game day. So that's a free commercial for Jackson State University. You can't beat that. All right. Great publicity. You have a coach. We know what he's done. We know the athlete that he was one of the best that we've ever seen. So you're going to have some recruits. They're going to have Jackson State on the list, and Jackson State may not have been there 3 weeks ago. All right. Mm-hmm. So that all that stuff is positive. Now, when toe meets leather, it's going to go back to the X's and O's and executing. So what it means then and what it means now might not be the same.
For a minute, I thought I was listening to, God rest his soul, Coach Otis Washington. You remember him.
Yeah.
You would say it's about execution when Southern won. When he didn't win a football game, it was a lack of execution. But very interesting. A lot on social media, one way or the other, pros and cons. Time will tell, cliches of what will happen outside of football. I guess from a business standpoint, the marketing, it's outstanding for Jackson State because they are in the conversation for a while, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Jackson State has won this from a PR standpoint, and they will continue to win this from a PR standpoint. Even that first game, if everything is all go for the spring and that season kicks off, man, and we're able to have people in the stands, and man, that's going to be amazing. And if we don't, that first game down in Miami Gardens against FAMU, oh man, man, Jackson State, man, from a PR standpoint, man, this is great. I'm happy for the people at Jackson State, the alumnus there, the students, man. This gives you some extra buzz. It's exciting. But not only Jackson State, the entire city of Jackson. So, you can't beat the buzz and everything that they're getting right now. I mean, you can't beat it. So, shout out to Jackson State from that standpoint, going out and making a hire like that. Now, like I said, it comes with some risk. You don't know how this thing gonna play out, but right now, on this side, before we get to the football playing portion, it's working out pretty well.
Visiting with Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day, and kind of what you're saying, risk versus reward. I'm just kind of scrolling through some of the comments already, and you kind of see that even in the comments. One listener says, and here's what I mean, and you can comment if you care to do so. BJ, sermons don't win football games. I must admit, it was a great revival. Now, who would you think that was from? What institution in the conference?
If I had to guess, I would say Southern or Alcorn.
It wasn't Southern. Yeah. Another listener says we have to wait to see if Deion is serious or if he's playing us, meaning the HBCU community. It is not a matter of being against Dion, but being for HBCUs. Doc is right because at this point, JSU supporters are still thinking with emotions. Man, I got a few more coming in. But don't make a mistake about this. This, from a newsworthy standpoint, yeah, it's a 10 plus. I'm more interested, and time will tell. I mean, BJ, they got to release the staff. They're going to do that. And there's speculation about, who's going to be on the staff. I've seen a potential list. That is out. That'll be outstanding. That will be judged. But 3 or 4 years from now, is it too early to speculate on how you think it will go? 3 years from now, even if he's going to be here in 3 years.
I will say if Prime is still at Jackson State in 3 or 4 years, that means that this thing has not only gone right from a PR standpoint, it's going right from the wins and losses. One thing that we've learned about Jackson State since Rick Comedy, since then, since we go back with James Bell and Coach Hughes, they will let you go quick if you're not winning how you need to. It doesn't matter if it's a year in or 2 years in, they will let you go quick. So if in 3 or 4 years and Prime is still there, that means things are working great from a on-field standpoint. Now, if he's not there in 3 or 4 years, either they have went outstanding and he parlayed that into another job, or it has gone like the last few coaching hires since Rick Comedy, that it's gone so bad that the school said, we got to get out of this one. We got to take a hard reset. So that's my outlook on the next 3 or 4 years. It's either has gone great or it's gone bad and we got to get out of it.
I pulled up an article from Kendrick Marshall, HBCU Sports.com. Will, quote the source. And within the article, see what you guys think about this. JSU is supposed to be relevant. It's almost treated as a birthright for the football team to be vying for championships yearly. The last 6 years, though, the program has been home to the land of misfit coaches who, through no fault of their own, never were able to perform up to the level. Synopsis with the dominance once routine a generation ago. They were either too old, too inexperienced, or too far removed from the game. Sanders fits the disturbing archetype in a few of those categories. He's in his 50s. He's never been a coordinator, let alone a head coach in college. However, he's a fixture in the game. The pro football relationships aside, Sanders has toiled away at the high school ranks, cutting his coaching teeth, teaching and mentoring youngsters. Now, that part, taking it out of the article, what do you think about it? Did he nail it?
I mean, he there were some things that he said that I agree with. I think the Deion Sanders hire, I'm taking the wait and see approach. Mm-hmm. Deion has been around the game. No, he has not coached at the collegiate level. He, did some high school work, but he's always been around kids and teaching kids when it comes down to the game of football. And to get the experience, you got to start somewhere. Jackson State rolled the dice to get him to start. Now, the part I do agree with, this is a risk. Because if this fails and this does not go well, there's going to be a lot of people on the hook, and it ain't just going to be primetime Sanders. there's going to be a lot of people, all right, namely Ashley Robinson, but there's going to be a lot of people at Jackson State are going to want gone if this thing don't work out. It's like I said, it's a high risk, high reward, and I see this going one way or the other. This is either go really good or it's going to go really bad. I don't see a lot of wiggle room for a lot of in between on this one. So, like I said, parts of that statement I agree with. Parts I'm kind of like, let's wait and see.
Athletic Director Ashley Robinson, and this is still in the article, hired Sanders in part for the name recognition and the possible doors that could be open for JSU because of the partnership. Sanders shouldn't be viewed as a figurehead. While he might strut out the tunnel as a sonic boom of the South marching band jams in tow whenever football resumes, Sanders is not here to provide a spectacle. He's in Jackson to win games, something JSU has not done consistently enough in years. Coach Prime better get used to his new normal. Now, Kendrick Marshall is a Jackson State graduate. You can read his article at HBCU Sports.com. So BJ said risk, reward. You've heard us talk about time will tell. And BJ, we've seen hires in this conference before. And I said earlier, I've been guilty of this as well, saying it's previous years, it's a good hire. At the time, everything looks good on paper.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, you'll be judged down the line. Whatever that institution feels is an appropriate time to make a judgment or get a progress report, or how much has that coach progressed in a certain period of time. But I must admit, it's going to be exciting.
Hey, one thing about Jackson State, and it's ironic that Deion Sanders is there. If Jackson State, no matter how bad they've been, they've always found their way in the limelight. Almost compare them to almost like the Dallas Cowboys of the SWAC. No, they're not winning right now. They've won in the past, but they find ways to remain relevant, and they do it in a flashy, headline grabbing style. And right now you have a coach that can grab headlines, coaching there. I mean, I just feel like it from that standpoint, it's a perfect marriage. But I think it comes down to wins and losses, and that new car smell. That goal will start to tarnish if Coach Prime isn't able to do that. Just as quick as the Jackson State fans got in his corner, you will start to get those saying, "See, I told you so." The man, he never coached before he got you. You will start getting those lines quick if the win-loss record ain't where it's supposed to be.
A listener says the stock price for the SWAC has continued to rise. If you look at all things that have happened, quote unquote, during this pandemic, if you bought SWAC stock last year, you would make money this year. Another listener says coaches, and the screen slips out on me here. Coaches always say, we know we are hired to be fired. Well, I must admit, BJ, once this season starts, and I know everyone's looking at the spring, 2021. I'm pointing to fall 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Because hopefully it'll be, better. COVID-19 wise, there are games are going on now, but you also see, BJ, that even on the high school level, on the collegiate level, that you're getting positive tests coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's going to be an ongoing thing. Just hopefully the fall of 2021 is just a better situation.
Oh yeah, man. You definitely hope so, man. You have high schools and even colleges who are having to cancel games, in multiple games, due to COVID. So you definitely, we definitely, you want everything to be back to normal. And like I said, COVID has, trust me, as a person who is right now dealing, my mom with, what COVID can do. You don't wish that on anybody. So I kind of tell people, like, it's difficult for me, as long as all of this going on, to really, focus on the sport, because, this was a reminder for me, what happened, was going on with my mom, that, there's things out here, bigger than the sport of football. No matter how much money, the sport can generate for a community or for a school, there are things out here a little bit more important. So, and I'm also with you. The spring looks 50-50 for me, just because of just looking at how things are projected to go through the flu season and the temperatures getting colder and dealing with the flu mixed with COVID and what that could possibly do. But fall of 2021, it's going to be amazing. If you are a person that has followed this conference of SWAC, I posted this the other day. I don't know of another commissioner that's having a better 2020 than Charles McClellan. All right, what has happened with the addition of FAMU, the addition of Bethune-Cookman, now Deion Sanders at Jackson State, he has had a wonderful 2020 when most of our 2020s have been bad or odd or bizarre world. So I agree. If you're a SWAC fan, man, this is definitely a time, and I can't wait for this thing to get back started. To me, I know college football is going on today. Not to me, it's not. It won't be back, man, until we're on this show together and we're talking about the games that we have set up for the day. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Mm-hmm. Visiting with Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day. Let me take this question, and I guess we both can give our thoughts on it. And I appreciate the listener weighing in on this one. He says, what would you consider a success? Third, fourth year, and what does Prime need to have accomplished? Must-win championships or just be a winning team?
I think step one for Jackson State is getting a winning record. Progress to, getting, having that winning record, which is something that they have not done since 2013. So that's the number one focus there. Once you've accomplished that, then you can start focus on getting yourself in the position to win championships. You have the good and bad. Alcorn is now going over to the West, so that's one obstacle gone. But bad news is Bethune-Cookman, who you met in the MEAC SWAC Challenge, they're now in the East, and they're bringing FAMU along with them, who a lot of people feel is going to be the favorite in the East. And then you also have Alabama A&M and Alabama State, who you have not beaten last year. They're in the East with you. So, yeah, it's kind of good and bad. So get the winning season first, and then focus on chipping away, trying to get that Eastern Division title.
Okay, now third or fourth year, and I guess that's where he was going, in a 3 to 4 year period, where should Jackson State be? Either I can throw this out. Let's say Coach Sanders does like Southern did. He got to the championship and he lost two years in a row. Will that suffice for Jackson?
Yeah. Hey, to lose a championship game, you got to get there. So you want to be competing for titles by year 3 or 4. Without any unforeseen circumstances, if you are running at 100%, then you want to be competing for championships by year 3 or 4.
So you believe he's still there?
Yeah, he's still there if he's competing for those championships year 3 or 4.
Here's a smarty pants. Not if Alcorn beats him those 2 years. Well, That would mean that that would be the SWAC championship. Yeah, SWAC championship. Yeah, Alcorn and Jackson State. Well, how about if we reverse that? Oh, how dare you say this, Carlos? What happens if Alcorn loses in the championship 2 years in a row? It could be anybody. It could be, it could be, let's say, FAMU, Bethune-Cookman.
I don't like that because that means at that particular point that Southern didn't make the championship game.
Well, BJ, it's going to go to this. Everybody's going to have to, and you know this, everyone's going to have to step. The good thing about this, as you talked about, a great 2020 as far as PR and bringing in FAMU and Bethune-Cookman. Now the stakes have just gotten 200 times hotter.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with that being said, you will be judged. Put it this way: getting to the championship and ballot point and losing, that's great. But now, how this conference has expanded, I don't think that's good enough. And I believe certain fan bases, they don't want to hear it anymore. So I understand one side is saying, yeah, and as you stated, it's better to get there and lose than not get there at all.
Yeah, but you can't keep that mentality, but for so long.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't keep that mentality, but for so long. Like I take this has always been my, my take on this. I'm not going to burn down my house because I got a leak in the bathroom. What we're going to do is we go to the bathroom and fix it. But the thing about that leak in the bathroom, if you don't fix it and you don't get it prepared, pretty soon it'll ruin the house. So I kind of take that take on the situation at Southern and the losses to Alcorn really in the championship game. Southern's a solid program. You can't argue what Coach Dawson Oldham has done, but you've gotten to the door. Now it's time to kick the door in. Or you can't be happy with just sitting on the porch. You want to come on inside and sit down in a recliner and kick your feet up eventually. Because the longer you stand on the porch, the chances are that, there's going to be somebody else behind you to stand on the porch and you're going to be back in the yard on the street. So, eventually you got to kick that door down. So hopefully it's this year or whenever we touch the field again, that's the year that we finally kick that door down.
Well, you can't wait. You're in the moment right now. You want to see things where it's much better. I point to fall 2021. Spring, I would agree with you. It's 50-50 right now. And I had we had a discussion, and I'll just pass it on to you. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Listener says, Carmody made it to the championship game and they fired him. Yeah.
How's that worked out?
The Carmody curse. I think that's what it's called. So again, it goes back to your decisions you make. I said this last week. You gather all the information that you can. If the AD is making a direct hire, but in a lot of cases it's a committee form, alumni, people outside of the athletics on the campus. You get all the information you can, and as a group of committee, you bring forth that information, and then the AD makes the hire, and then you live with it. We could talk about this is not a good move. This will happen. That'll happen. You'll be judged on those decisions that you make, and that's why you get paid the big bucks.
I would say in situations like that, we had the Cummings firing. When you fire a coach like that who is winning the majority of their games, they're getting you to the championship games. I think when you replace a coach like that, you have to replace them with someone that is better than them.
Equal or better.
You cannot roll the dice and say, well, he should. Well, I think you are past potential hires at that particular point. You have to go with someone with a proven track record, because if you don't, you might as well should have just kept the guy that you had. Look at the Detroit Lions, Jim Caldwell. He was the head coach there for 4 years, winning season 3 of them, 3 playoff appearances. 1 year he misses the playoffs. They fire him. They bring in Matt Patricia, and now it's tragedy. You've been duped by a coach with a pencil behind his ear with a laminated play sheet. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So when you fire a coach that's getting you to where you need to be, that got you on the edge of reaching your goals, the next hire has to be better than him. And he better have a proven track record that he is better than him. Because if you don't, you run the risk of being like Southern Miss after Bauer was let go, Jackson State after Cummings, Jackson State after Hughes, when you have the Bell situation. When you fire a coach, like I said, that's getting you is a championship caliber coach. You better go out and get a championship caliber coach. I ain't talking about championship potential. I'm talking about championship and has the hardware to prove it. If not, you might as well hold on to what you got.
You heard him. BJ has given his opinion on the situation. Fall 2021, Jackson State and FAMU, they get it on. BJ, that first game, wow.
Oh, it's going to be amazing.
And I had Director of Athletics, Courtney Gaucher, on last week. And, if I didn't know any better, I think he took a little shot there. Yeah, he's a confident guy, and he's confident that they're going to welcome Jackson State to the 2021 with the expanded Southwestern Athletic Conference with all new members in place. And that will be an outstanding game, and the pageantry should be outstanding as well. BJ, for those who would like to hear more of you, see more of your works, give them your contact and social media information.
All right. Well, you can find me on Twitter at Inside HBCU Football. You can follow my work at HBCU Game Day. And also on Facebook, BJ Jones, or at Inside HBCU Football. Haven't really been really active with everything going on with Mama, but once we are clear and we are out of the woods, I'm coming back full steam ahead. I got a few things in the wheelhouse that I've been thinking about and working on. And when we get the all clear, we get the green light, I'm going full go. You also get a chance to to patronage the barbershop with BJ Jones on the Open Mic Network podcast. You'll have that coming forth soon. Like I said, we're just waiting for everything to Mom to continue to get better. But once we get that green light and we are ready to go, then I'm going full speed.
Well, congratulations, first and foremost. Your mother, continued blessings, and we'll have continued prayers for you, her, and your entire family. And I'm sure the HBCU fan base and alum the nation will also keep you and your mother and your family in their thoughts and prayers.
Oh, and, man, I appreciate it. Trust me, man. So many people have reached out, and I just want to get an opportunity to say thank you to all you guys who have reached out. Man, it has meant a lot to me, a lot to my family. People just reaching out, just letting you know, hey, I'm just letting you know I'm praying for you and your mom, praying for your mom. There's so many people that have reached out. So I just want to say on behalf of my mom, myself, and the rest of our family, man, we really appreciate you. Keep those prayers going, everything going in the right direction. Man, we're almost there. So, man, just keep those prayers coming, and trust me, man, I really, really appreciate it.
Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day, joining me here on the Carlos Brown Show. We'll talk again real soon, young fellow.
All right, man. Appreciate you, Carlos.
All righty. Hang in there.
All
Going to take a quick time out. When I come back, Morrell Mo Carter. We'll get his take on this prime time Saturday on the Carlos Brown Show. And you know what? On social media, you know, he talked about the sonic boom of the South. Tremendous band. You know how I feel. If we had to rank bands, that would be a 3-hour show. But I did got a chance to send him a Human Jukebox song to his Instagram account. I'm sure he gets thousands of those, but it was an outstanding selection from an outstanding band, the Human Jukebox. So with that being said, I'll take a time out. Morrell Mo Carter joins me next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Hello, this is Alonzo Hardy Jr., the president of the SWAC Alumni Association. The SWAC Alumni Association is an organization founded on December 10, 1999, at the Sheraton Hotel in Birmingham, Alabama. Its mission is to serve as a rallying ground for individuals who have made the Southwestern Athletic Conference the illustrious conference that it is today. Its membership is open to former student athletes who played in the conference in any sport, as well as to coaches, athletic administrators, staff members, game officials, and fans. Annually, the association holds a Legends Awards and Roast Banquet or luncheon where it honors individuals with Lifetime Achievement Awards, a Chuck Prophet Wagon Master Award, and occasionally a Distinguished Service Award. Proceeds from that event help to finance degree completion scholarships for student athletes who have exhausted their playing eligibility at SWAC universities, but who may still need an extra semester or two to complete their college studies. For more information on the SWAC Alumni Association, or to get information on becoming a member, you can send correspondence to SWAC Alumni Association, 875 Miller Creek Lane, Newport News, Virginia, 23602. The email address is swacaluminassociation@yahoo.com.
Sergeant Stephen Woodard with the Texas Department of Public Safety. This is your traffic safety talk. Here in the state of Texas, we get a lot of different weather events. It may be hot one day, and the weather may change next. With a heavy rain event, I want you to continue to be cautious, check on your neighbors, and never drive through flooded roadways, especially at night, because it's generally hard to judge the depth of water during low light times. Flash flooding is the number one weather-related killer here in the state of Texas. More than 50%, all of our flash flood fatalities nationwide involve vehicles. Saving lives is my and DPS's number one priority. Never attempt to drive through flooded roadways, and always remember, around, don't drown. Some safety tips. Even in relatively shallow water, you should think about this. Tires can act as flotation devices. They can actually lift a big vehicle of several different sizes, sending that vehicle downstream of that flooded area, and it only takes 300 pounds and going down the road. Where water covering roadways, it can actually hide washed out bridges, gutters, and also large cracks in the roadway. Keep in mind, if you are in a low-lying area, especially an area that floods, you set everything that you have in high positions. If you can, leave the area. Never allow children to play near ditches and storm drains. Keep an emergency kit in your vehicle, complete with flares if possible, lights, triangles, be a small flashlight, and coat. Forget your cell phone charger. Other essentials like medication. Monitor your weather authority. Always listen to the public officials, their recommendations and orders. Remember, take care of yourself and each other. This is Sergeant Stephen Woodard with the Texas Department of Public Safety. This was your Traffic Safety Talk.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Guest number 2 on today's show is Morrell Mo Carter, Sports Director, WZDX in Huntsville, Alabama. Mo, good morning to you, sir.
Hey, good morning, Carlos. Good to hear from you, my friend.
It's good to hear from you as well, because it has been a boring week, day, a month in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And I tell you,
I think
it gets better. I'm sorry, what did you say, Mo?
I said, you talk about boring. I think there were a few things that happened this week or whatever that was kind of noteworthy.
Yeah, one would be prime time. Mo, I know you got a chance. If you didn't, let's just be honest. Did you watch the press conference live?
I didn't get a chance to watch the press conference live, but I did go back and watch it later on and everything. I mean, I'll say this: the whole entire event, was something. I'll say that it was a spectacle to say the least and whatnot. But give or take, when you follow a career of a guy like Deion Sanders, you kind of expected it to be, the glitz and the glam, and making sure the bands and stuff get in there. And then I knew that his speech was going to be inspiring and almost going to sound like a sermon because, for anybody that really knows him, everybody knows that he's a really, really godly person per se too. So, you take that godly aspect plus the swagger part of him, and that's what you got on Monday at that press conference.
And you have emotions all over the place. I tried to talk to a couple of coaches that are in the conference, that are not in the conference, and believe it or not, they didn't really want to talk about it. And I was like, okay, you respect that. I'm thinking maybe it's a competitiveness, and we've talked about it already on this show, how everyone will elevate their coaching, and everyone's going to be fired up. And this hire has really been a hire that it's going to get everybody ready to compete. Not that they weren't ready to compete before, but it just it's raised the competitiveness twofold. Would you agree with that? Or you
no, I totally agree with that. Actually, let me comment on what you were saying about talking to a couple of the coaches. I can totally understand what you're saying about, some of the coaches saying that they didn't really want to comment per se, one, because of competitiveness or whatever, but also, two, I think, it kind of goes more so on the respect factor as well. When it comes to being like, hey, coach, what do you think about this one? It's kind of hard to ask, it's hard to ask coaches in the East because they have to go head-to-head with Jackson State and also go head-to-head with Deion Sanders. It'll also be hard to ask a few coaches in the West, like Grambling and Southern, since Jackson State is a huge rival or whatever. And no offense, but I'm pretty sure Coach Fives and also Coach Otis would have probably gave you some good stuff to talk about, but then it would probably been some good bulletin board type stuff as well that Jackson State could have used for their momentum moving forward. But as far as, Deion being hired, I think the hire is a huge splash, not only for Jackson State, but also for the Southwestern Athletic Conference. It'll add additional notoriety to the SWAC. For all the people that are saying, oh, he's about to put the SWAC on the map. No. Look, I do not want to hear that. I don't want to see people post about that because the SWAC has been on the map or whatever, especially what you've been seeing during the offseason with Dr. Charles McClellan and him expanding the SWAC footprint and whatnot. If anything, this is just something else that just goes into what makes the SWAC such a big deal, not only with HBCUs, but also as an elite FCS conference. Now, granted, I know that, Prime is going to come through and do a lot of great things. And I feel good about the hire or whatever. Me personally, he's one of my favorite players. I mean, I wore number 21 when I was at Southern University for, one of those specific reasons in general. And if I would name like my top 5 defensive backs of all time, Prime is definitely in that top 5, along with some other familiar names you may know, like Aeneas Williams and Mel Blount. And once everybody hears those two things, they'll figure out why they're in there or whatever in general. But as a whole, no, I think he'll definitely come through and make some things happen for Jackson State. At the same time, too, you have to look at it, man. Jackson State really has not been in the championship for 7, 8 years or whatever when it comes to competing in the SWAC. So now, their athletic director, he had to go get a home run hire to try to elevate the program because they want to buy in and make sure that Jackson State becomes part of the elite again. Regardless, don't get me wrong, man. It ain't gonna be no cakewalk for Deion Sanders within the SWAC. I mean, granted, you're going head to head, still recruiting against Alcorn, one of your big rivals, and then in the East Division, I mean, you look at it like this: Coach Maynard up here at Alabama A&M. I mean, they're continuing to be on the up and up, and then you're adding Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman for the 2021 fall season. So, man, East is going to be a beast, and I can't lie to you, man. Deion Sanders and Jackson State will have their work cut out for them in the East Division for sure.
Well, you can't wait to that full fall 2021 season get started. Bethune-Cookman and FAMU in the conference. But specifically, what are you hearing in the Huntsville and the Alabama area about the Jackson State hire, and two, adding to institutions like FAMU and Bethune-Cookman?
So a lot of the people I've talked to that are affiliated with Alabama A&M here in the Huntsville area actually are pretty excited because some of the older generation, they remember the rivalry with Florida A&M back from being in the days of the SIAC, but Bethune-Cookman as well, but more so Florida A&M. So a lot of those older alums are very, very excited about it. I got a chance to text a few Alabama A&M football players, and of course, excitement's there because they want to raise their level of competition. And Coach Maynard has a good amount of kids that are from the state of Florida as well, because they recruit that area very hard. One guy in particular, Brian Jenkins Jr., one of the standout wide receivers for Alabama A&M. He's from Florida, and when I talked to him, he basically said that, I know a lot of guys on both teams, and they already trash talking, even though we're not playing them at least till, the fall of 2021. So there's definitely a lot of excitement there. When we talk to Coach Maynard, he has said multiple times that at the end of the day, he knows that he's got to prepare his football team to compete in the East Division or whatever, no matter who it is, because they want to play in the SWAC championship game. They want to host the SWAC championship game, and, they want to participate in a celebration bowl. And no matter what happens, they know they got to go to the East, and which he also said the East was going to be a beast. So, yeah, a lot of the fans, the players, and coaches, they're really, really excited to see the SWAC elevate itself the way it is. And also, Coach Maynard said kudos to Dr. Charles McClellan for helping elevate the conference as a whole in just his first couple of years. So a lot of good things coming. Good comments coming from the Bulldog Nation about the guy that's in charge of the conference in general.
I'm speaking with Morel Mo Carter, Sports Director, WZDX Huntsville, here on the Carlos Brown Show. Mo, can you just kind of picture in your mind some of the things that we've talked about, the anticipation, that SWAC football media day, because we're still talking about Coach Sanders, now the head football coach of Jackson State. That SWAC football media day is going to be just outstanding. The coaches on the stage, the media there, trying to get a feel for how the teams are gonna do, how successful or not successful, predictions and what have you. But just that event, people can't wait, and I'm sure as a part of the media, you can't wait as well.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, I'm not sure what we're going to do for SWAC. Well, if we're even going to have a SWAC Media Day for the spring, for the spring season that we're going to have, or whatever, it's probably going to be virtual. But if we are able to get back in person for the fall 2021, it's going to be a spectacle. I really hope that Dr. Charles McCullough, who I know is a very good friend of yours, is a big fan of the show, I really hope he's already preparing a location that'll, possibly hold a decent amount of media that definitely comes through for the, for the SWAC Media Day. And yeah, all those coaches on the stage, from Coach McNair now being in the West for that upcoming season, to Primetime being in the East, and then Coach Maynard or whatever. Matter of fact, I actually looked at one of the Facebook groups for Alabama A&M, and some people was like, okay, Deion, it's all good or whatever. At the same time, we got Coach Maynard, and they were like, Maynard time greater than prime time. So it's already starting for sure, or whatever, from the fan standpoint. But no, man, it's going to be a great spectacle or whatever. But at the same time, too, that's why it's a big preseason event. And at the same time, you got to turn around and play the game. But I love to hear what the trash talk is going to be like for sure, or whatever, between a whole lot of great coaches. And probably the players, too, because, I mean, you got to think that the players are going to be amped up, from the coaches, especially as they get ready for the upcoming season.
Yeah, I can see it now. I'm in the room. I'm on Radio Row, and I'm observing the room. I'm looking at everybody, making observations. And just in my mind, you look at one coach who's quiet. Let's see who you can guess who I'm trying to describe. He's confident. He has the rings on his finger. He loves the institution. He doesn't micromanage. If he's just really laid back, and he's sitting back and looking at every other coaches. Then he's looking at some coaches are sweating already, and the event has just started. Well, it's maybe 10 minutes into the event. He can sense the pressure for some. You have some coaches that have done well. They're right there, but just not quite over the finish line. Then you have a coach that came with a lot of fanfare, was voted one of the best assistant coaches in FCS. He's sweating a little bit. Then you have some coaches that, they have no pressure, nothing's expected from their institution, but they've got to up their game. Mo, that first coach that I tried to describe, who was I talking about?
Talking about the guy with the rings who's just sitting back and, just pretty laid back. Probably talking about
never gets excited. What was that? That was, you said that?
Man, Coach Fred is very, very laid back and lax. I mean, I'll never forget last year asking him a question that wasn't like really about him per se. I'd ask him a question about last year. I asked him a question about they had just made the announcement that his brother was going to have his jersey retired by the Tennessee Titans. And I was like, okay, well, considering that, I'm asking this to kind of lighten up the mood or whatever, while his answer was, yeah, we're excited or whatever, it's kind of still straight face game plan type face mode on or whatever as he's answering the question. So it's the guy's always about business. But yeah, I guess you basically can say, what they expect from the original Eric McNair.
That's correct. That's what I was describing. And then you look at another guy that I didn't really mention. He has some rings. He also fits that bill. He's laid back, cool, calm, collect on the sideline. He's probably starting. And by the way, I've been trying to get him on the show the last couple of weeks, and maybe I'll have to put him in the doghouse. But some of his fans are a little antsy because they've lost a big ball game the last 2 years. But he's got the pedigree.
I'll go ahead and guess. Roderick 5 for 500.
Yes, that is correct. Coach Fobbs for 50. That is correct. But I'll have to say this. I mean, they're coaches. They have personalities. They're human as well. And they're gonna try to prepare their teams the best that they can to get ready for this football season. If you're coaching basketball, the same thing. Basketball, getting ready to start up. Mo, when you look at that race, it was exciting. Prairie View A&M, 2-time defending champions. And basketball on the women's side, Jackson State just was outstanding from start to finish. No question. There's no, the tournament, they could have had some competition. They very well would have. Anything could happen in a tournament setting. But all of these coaches, they're going to be excited, and they're going to want to compete and have their teams be ready.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, competition is the name of the game. Competition provides an opportunity to have motivation and eventually get you to a point where either you're going to have a winner or a loser. So, yeah, man, competition across the board is going to be great, not just in football, but also in all those different sports, as you mentioned. And then, once we kind of get back to a version of normalcy or whatever, you got to think that anticipation for the upcoming season is actually also going to be high, just because, a lot of these students, especially for the student athletes, they've had to deal with the coronavirus and the pandemic, and they've kind of been taken out of their element. So I know for sure that a lot of these student athletes across the entire Southwestern Athletic Conference are going to be ready to make some things happen and once again get everything started to compete for championships. I'm still interested to see how we're going to be able to crown all these champions or whatever in the spring in like a 4-month span. But you know what? I haven't doubted anything that Commissioner Dr. Charles McCullough has done since he's been here. So I figure you've got some kind of plan here and there. Just, look forward to seeing what it's going to be. But it's going to be fun for sure.
They have a plan, and they know how to implement plans, and they get a lot of help from the committees. And we give credit where credit is due. Ashley Robinson chairing on some committees, and all of them. They really have the conference at heart, the best. And it is going to be an exciting time, and not just football, which we've been talking about on today's show mostly, but whether it's basketball, baseball, volleyball, softball, bowling, track and field, the competition is going to be outstanding. And speaking of outstanding, Mo, as always, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Stay safe, you and your family. And by the way, congratulations is in store for you and the missus.
Yes, sir. We are expecting a baby boy in the month of December. Looking forward to meeting the little guy, in the upcoming month. I will say this from a joking standpoint. I've already had three college coaches reach out to me and be like, hey, we around for the class of 2038. Just want to let you know we're showing interest already.
Woo! And you know what? Before you know it, time waits on no one. It'll be here before you know it.
And that's the crazy thing. I'm pretty sure time's going to wait on nobody. But at the same time, my wife and I have talked and we're like, look, we're going to try to enjoy these things day by day or whatever, because like even my coworkers were saying like, oh, we're so excited about you having a boy and stuff, because like we'll have to cover him for signing day 2038. I'm sitting here like, what?
I tell you, well, I haven't experienced that and probably won't. But guess what? Can't think of a person better to be able to experience fatherhood than Morrell Mo Carter. So once again, congratulations to you and the missus. And I'm sure maybe just maybe I'll have to send in due time some SU paraphernalia. I'm sure you're going to get a bunch of that anyway, but you're never going to have enough of that.
Hey, look, the more the merrier. The more
there you go.
Merrier. Well, Mr. Prince, I know exactly where your allegiance stands or whatever, so I can totally get you. But look, also think about this. I've also had people in Huntsville saying, "Yeah, we'll make sure we get you a little maroon and white stuff too." So
yeah, there you go. Hey, and you know the interesting thing that you're thinking about that. And one of my colleagues, my best friend, when we came to a celebration bowl press conference, we had on those nice swag jackets. Mm-hmm. And now we've got to upgrade them. There's no Baton Rouge family on there. So someone say, well, maybe you can donate that. Donate it. I'm keeping that jacket, and I'll get the new one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely a collector's item.
Yeah.
That is definitely a collector's item. Who knows, Carlos? You know, depending on how things go or whatever, you might be able to get that thing donated to College Football Hall of Fame. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Well, I got my mind wandering now. Appreciate it, Mo. Enjoy the weekend.
Hey, no problem. Hey, you and Mr. Prince also have a great weekend as well. Always good talking to you guys, and take care.
Thank you. Take care. That was Morrell Mo Carter, Sports Director, WZDX in Huntsville, Alabama. I'm going to take a time out. When I come back, I'm going to talk with the coach, Coach Van Pettaway. You know, I gave him, sent him a text message last night, at least early in the evening. I was concerned about a closeout game in the NBA. NBA. Well, I've actually watched a little bit of the WNBA. And, hey, it is what it is. We'll talk about some NBA. And you've noticed I haven't talked much NFL. Maybe I'll do that next week. After Sunday night, maybe we'll get an even clearer picture on some big games. And then Monday night, a huge matchup. And then also, once again, I'm going to say, exercise your constitutional right, although some people would like to just cut out that Constitution for their own purposes and go out and vote. It is imperative to get out and vote. Take a quick time out. Coach Pettaway joins me next. And also, I still have some text messages that are coming in that I would like to read as well. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show.
Be the one with courage to fight child abuse.
All Texans must find the courage to fight child abuse.
Learn the signs and symptoms and report suspected abuse to appropriate authorities.
Learn and know these warning signs.
A child who undergoes changes in behavior, appetite, or routine.
Watch for unexplained injuries, a change in academic performance, or loss of interest by a child in regular activities.
Trust your instincts. If you suspect something, do something.
If you believe a child is in an abusive situation, please call the Texas Abuse Hotline at 1-800-252-5400.
Be the one with courage. To find your local Children's Advocacy Center, visit onewithcourage.org.
On behalf of children, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Well, before we get to the next guest, welcome back to the Carlos Brown Show. I must address this listener. Sometimes some things are just so simple that you don't think about it. I was talking about my swag jacket now and with the 2 editions of Bethune and FAMU. And I'm going to say it this way. Mr. Holly says, you just need to get a couple of FAMU and Bethune-Cookman University patches and have them sold on those jackets. And I said, Holly, that's correct. I can do it that way, but I'm still going to get a new one. I'm still going to get one else. Right? Yeah. I'll talk with the budget director. You notice I'm talking tough when the budget director's not here. Exactly. Welcome back to the Carlos Brown Show, hour number 2. Going to visit with Coach Van Pettaway, the Carlos Brown Show basketball analyst and sports analyst. Coach Pettaway, good morning to you, sir.
Hey, good morning, Carlos. Good morning to everybody. Hope everybody's doing well.
Everybody's doing well. I'm still getting. I'm trying to keep up with the comments, Coach. With Coach Sanders now, the head football coach at Jackson State, we kind of talked a little bit about what was coming last week with you. Now that it's official, you want to finalize your comments?
Well, yes. I think it's just like I figured in the beginning. You look at this week for Jackson State. They have received so much publicity. They've got so much recognition about this hire. They could never afford to pay for the publicity that they've gotten so far. I mean, on just this hire. This guy's been on the bottom line for ESPN. You don't see that very often. Jackson State was up there from the moment they hired him to even today. They're still running stuff about him. And then, he was on Good Morning America. I think he was on again this morning. So the publicity alone, I think, has been great for not only Jackson State, but for the SWAC, because they are a part of the SWAC. And then I think their fans, the Jackson State fans, I think they got to show a little patience. And this is why I'm saying this. Deion is coming in at a very tough time because he will not be allowed to just get with his kids and implement his program right away. So you're talking about a football coach that won't have spring practice with his kids. He won't have the winter workouts with his kids to get in the strength portion of it. Then, of course, the spring training where he's putting in his system. So that's why I'm saying they got to show a little patience. In other words, this first year, because they're going to try to play, 2 seasons in really one calendar year, that's going to be tough. And at what time will he have to implement all of the things that he want to put in his program in terms of his offensive and defensive philosophies? So I think a little patience should come with this. But now we're talking about Jackson State, and I don't think they have a lot of patience. To me, they remind me a lot of the Southern fans, where they don't have patience, and they want instant results. We live in a microwave society, and they want that instant show. But what they've already received should be enough to carry them over until he gets one traditional football season. And that's just me. I think that he should be afforded that. Then, after he's given that opportunity, now we judge him, because I think he's going to be a great impact on Jackson State football, because his name recognition will give him an opportunity to get into a lot of households that Jackson State probably has not been able to get in, and some of those kids will be coming to Jackson State. So he'll get the athletes, and then if he puts together this evidently he's already put together a good coaching staff, because he talked about the number of years in the press conference. He talked about the number of years of experience that these guys had. So I took that as being he's already gotten his staff together. And it's going to be interesting. I haven't seen the names yet, but I would really like to know who he's got and just give those guys a chance to implement it, and I think they'll be okay.
And that's a fair assessment. And a guy who no one's really talking about, and T.C. Taylor as an interim coach, how important is that? Because here I'm trying to do a compare and contrast, and I may be off base on this, but in most cases you always keep one, sometimes two coaches when the staff a new staff comes in. Example, some people have tried to compare Coach Stump Mitchell when he came to Southern University. Now, we know he was famous for a statement he made, basically saying they're going to go undefeated. Shame on you for saying that.
Wow, yeah.
Shame on you. And I don't think Coach Sanders will say something that outrageous. I could be wrong. But Coach Dewey was kept on the staff of Coach Mitchell. Eric Dewey, who's now at Prairie, head football coach. And they kept him for a year. So, T.C. Taylor, how important will he be as I'm calling him interim now, and he'll, from what I'm hearing, he's going to be on the new staff. But how important is T.C. Taylor to kind of keep things, looking at over the program until Coach Sanders can kind of get in there and put his print on the program?
I think he'll be very important and very vital because he already knows the ins and outs of Jackson State University. Not only the football side, but he already knows the administrative side. So I think that's good to keep somebody who already has that footprint on that university. So I think it'd be good. And as long as he comes in and buys into Coach's philosophy, then I think it'll be a good marriage.
Now, with that being said, by the way, I'm visiting with Coach Van Pettaway here on the Carlos Brown Show. You're back on the coaching, say at Alabama A&M, and you may have an instance that you can relate to us. Has there been a time when you were there at Alabama A&M that a basketball coach came into the conference with as much fanfare as Deion Sanders? And what will be the mindset? And I understand that from a competitive standpoint, you want to be very competitive, but how did you react to someone with that much going for them coming into the conference for the first time?
Well, I just look at it being a new kid on the block. Like my first time. Now, I didn't have the fanfare that Deion had when Alabama A&M moved to the SWAC, but I do know this. Those coaches got together and they had a welcome ceremony for me coming into the SWAC as a new coach at Alabama A&M. They no one wanted to be the first one to lose to the new kid on the block, but fortunately during that time, we had some great kids in there, and I think our first year in the SWAC we finished second. So I think that's just human nature. Nobody wants the new kid coming in. You don't want to be the first one to lose to him, because after my time in there, after I've been in the SWAC, then every time a new coach came, when Coach Jackson took over Alabama State, that's my rival. So I wanted to beat him. When Prairie View got a new coach out there, of course we had to go after him. So I think the competitive nature of the coaches, they just want to be, even if it wasn't Deion, Jackson State would be bringing in a new coach. They don't want to be the first one to lose to him. So from that standpoint, they're going to do all they can to try to beat him. Now, with Deion and all his fame and stuff, there might be a coach or two in the league that might look at that and might want to put a little more effort into their game planning so that they can become successful against Jackson State. But I think any coach, I don't care who it is, whether it was somebody else hired at Jackson State, those coaches just want to win that game.
And speaking of game, if if I can transition, because I do like to talk basketball with you, of course, NBA in the bubble. I got a chance to watch Coach Calipari. And, of course, all of the Kentucky players in the NBA, Anthony Davis, Bam, Tyler Hero, and I know I'm missing one or two players. Just listening to him talk about the success that they've had, and they were they were pretty young when they left, most of them. How do you handle success if you're coaching a young guy who comes in and goes beyond expectations? How do you kind of keep him even keel?
Well, I listen, at Kentucky now, they're
the blue bloods. I know it's kind of
right. So they're gonna get. He's not gonna have surprises because he's recruiting McDonald's All-Americans. He's recruiting the cream of the crop. So when those kids come into Kentucky, they are expected to win. Now, you'll have some people, just like Cal has been on bragging about all the people that he's still got playing in the bubble. Well, that means that he's had some great players at Kentucky, and I think he has only, one championship to show for that? So now you got to look at it both ways now. Right. You got plenty of talent that comes through those doors, but all of that has translated into only one national championship. Yeah, they can win the SEC because the other schools are more. They're looking more at football. They don't look at football at the University of Kentucky. They want it to always be a basketball school. So he's getting the blue bloods. He's getting the cream of the crops. So he is expected to win, and those kids already come in with that edge. Those kids have had that edge all their lives. That's why they're at Kentucky, because those are the ones that are self-motivated. They can play, and they just got what all us coaches are looking for, that player that can go out there and get buckets. So that does not surprise me about the caliber of players that go into Kentucky, and then they turn into great NBA players because they're the best of their class when they come into college. So I'm not surprised that he's had all this talent. I'm more surprised about he's only won one championship with that talent.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna be facetious here, Coach Pettaway. He's had about a couple of run-ups. I mean, isn't that most people satisfied with run-ups?
Not at Kentucky, they're not.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah. Not at Kentucky, they're not. Not when you got not when you your budget. You got an unlimited budget when it comes to basketball. You got some of the best facilities in the country.
Great
talent. You bring them in and out, but they expect more than just an SEC championship. Yeah, they like that because that's the first step. But they want that. They want that next step, because when you look at a program like Duke, in terms of facilities now, Duke doesn't have what Kentucky has.
Nope.
But look at the championships. But see, all of them have this in common. They're getting the McDonald's All-Americans. In the SWAC, we get the kids that like to eat at McDonald's. Right. We're not getting those McDonald's All-Americans, and so it's different when it comes to basketball on the two levels. But my hat's off to him, because you still have to be a good manager of egos, because all of those guys come in there, they've been the best at their craft where they come from, and now you got all these guys on the same team. He's got to be able to manage them, get them to put aside their egos for a team goal, and that's to win. So they have a winning record, but now they're not winning championships, the national championships, like a lot of the Kentucky fans expect.
Visiting with Coach Van Pettaway here on the Carlos Brown Show. So with that being said, it's pointing to the Lakers coming out of the West, but will it be Boston or Miami coming out of the East? Miami had a chance to close out last night. We're not able to accomplish that goal. So what does Coach Pettaway feel? Does Boston come back and win this series 4-3?
No. In both series, I don't see either team beating the other opponent 3 straight games. Miami had a hiccup last night. I do not see Boston winning 2 or 3 straight games, because that's what it would take to beat Miami. I think Miami will bounce back. They're not going to let them win. They're not going to let them win 3 in a row. And on the other side, I don't think L.A. is going to allow Denver to win 3 in a row. So I think that 3-1 advantage goes to the team with the 3-1. They'll pull out one more game. I feel. That's my opinion. As long as L.A., when you look at L.A., as long as they play inside out, they'll win. But when LeBron wants to play hero ball and stay on that perimeter and try to show everybody he's greater than Michael by shooting these threes and these long distance shots and holding on to the ball, that does not help LA. That puts them in a slump, because the guys just stand around and watch him. He's holding the ball like, it reminds me of James Harden. 24 seconds, he holds it for 20, then he passes to somebody that's not even ready to shoot, because they've been sitting there watching him dribble the whole time.
And the points you're making, well taken. When I look at a possible, because everyone knows I'm a Heat fan. Since 2006, the Lakers are long and athletic. You already hinted. Well, no, you didn't hint. You said the Lakers will be the favorite to win. And if it's a Lakers and a Heat matchup. But my question to you is, and valid points that you made, what will be the chance for Miami to make it much more competitive than some prognosticators would say? Probably Lakers 4-2. How would you see the series? I
would see it being a tough series for the Lakers, because Miami plays great team defense. And then I think Coach Sporcer will be in the mindset of trying to bait LeBron and Anthony Davis to play their perimeter game. And if they fall for the okie-doke, Miami can win. Because if they stay on the perimeter, that's in Miami's favor. But if those guys go in that post, it doesn't have to be the low post. It just can be the high post. The Lakers will win, because that's their strength. But as we've been watching this series of the Lakers, rather, during the playoffs, they don't always play to their strengths.
Well, I know it's a lot of Laker fans out there. Dr. Prince would like to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, Coach, if it goes to Game 7 in both series, who would the pressure be on the most, and why?
I think it would be on the team that went in as the favorite, because they expected, their fans expected, their owners as the favorites. They've invested enough into these teams that they expect you to win. So I think the pressure goes to the higher seeds. Miami has nothing to lose. They were never picked to win the thing. Denver has nothing to lose. They were never picked to win the thing. So to me, the pressure goes to the higher seeded team. That basket will get smaller and smaller.
And for a half, I saw the Celtics being tense, the pressure.
Right.
And then the third quarter, which was a disastrous third.
Right, Miami couldn't buy a basket.
41. And, you have to give credit to the Celtics, correct?
Yeah, you got to give them some credit, but at the same time,
what was
he
Miami
wasn't shooting
thinking?
the basketball like he needed to. They just could not buy a perimeter shot. That basket got smaller and smaller. And that's what happens when that pressure is ratcheted up. Yep.
Well, we're going to find out how teams, players handle that pressure. Coach Pettaway, it's been a good. I didn't know what to expect being in the bubble. The pandemic hit. Then the NBA said, "Well, we're going to come back with continue the rest of the season." And I must say it's been very exciting because I know a lot of, at least where I'm at in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, it's not really a NBA city, and I get that from a national standpoint. I don't think people care about pro basketball. They'll here in this area they'll like collegiate basketball more than the NBA, and then even coach within our geographical blueprint, football is the king.
Oh yeah.
Even collegiate basketball, but collegiate basketball in this conference and black college basketball, if I can use that term, it's been exciting. It has had some tremendous players and the atmosphere. You can talk to some of the guys, from 30 years ago and witnessing some of that talent coming through.
Right, and I think it's going to be a little bit different this year because if we're not, to me, there's nothing like a black college basketball game when you got the fans and the music and the band, pep bands. I think that's going to be a little bit different this year. And then, earlier this week, the NCAA announced the start of the schedule for men and women's basketball. I think that's going to be interesting. It's going to open up for you to have, to me, better league play. Like I think, like now, the SWAC can even look at perhaps stretching out the SWAC season, so you won't play those 4 games. Normally at the beginning and at the end, we're playing 4 games in a week. I'm sorry, not 4 games, 2 games. It is 3 games in a week. So now with them not even having to play all those guarantee games, you might be able to stretch it out a little bit, and that will help the coaches and the players, I think. But it's going to be an interesting year because of this pandemic when it comes to sports. And see, that's just like even with football, with this hire with Deion at Jackson State. If this was a normal year, could you imagine how many people would show up for his first game? So the pandemic has it still has its foot imprint on all of college sports. But I look forward to the basketball season and then streaming as many games as I can. And I'm still up in the air about seeing them live, but watching as much as I can. And I think it's going to be a great year. And I think the coaches are working under some unique circumstances, and to me, they all should be commended. I don't care what sport they're in, to have to work through what these coaches are going through now with their players. And then, of course, you can't forget about the players, the kids who are committed to playing their seasons. I think they're doing a fantastic, awesome job. And I think we as fans, we need to acknowledge that and let these kids know. Because, without their commitments, we wouldn't be able to see the games that we're looking forward to.
Yeah, someone asked me, and we'll close on this, about this pandemic and all coaches should get a pass. If no one should lose their job as far as a coach because of this pandemic. And then he went on to mention he was kind of disappointed that Alcorn made their moves right at the beginning, right before the pandemic. And I said, well, yeah, believe it or not, I agree with you. 2021 fall, if it's a lot better, I think it'll take on more significance. But the grand scheme of things is this 2020 and this pandemic,
right?
It's been tough, and we look to get past it.
Okay.
So on that note, we appreciate the time as always.
Sure.
You always bring a balance. You're not extreme to the left. You're not extreme to the right. You're grounded right in the center. Balance.
Okay, tell my wife that, okay?
I wouldn't dare. No.
All right, fellas. All right.
All advice, and you would probably tell me the same thing. I'm not henpecked. I've just been pecked by the right.
Right here. There you go.
And I'll leave it on that one.
All right. Hey, thanks, fellas, and have a great day, rest of the weekend, and everybody stay safe and God bless.
Same to you, Coach.
All right.
Same
Bye-bye.
to you. That was Coach Van Pettaway here on the Carlos Brown Show. Take a quick time out, and we'll visit with Charles Edmond. Last but not least, and someone says, don't bring Charles on without some Alcorn music. Well, we'll have to get with Dr. Prince on that one. Alcorn's in the house, boy, I tell you. After football season, I'm going to be looking for you guys. Because I want Alcorn to be proficient in basketball, baseball. Now that you're coming to the West, I need you to think about football plus other sports. Did I just take a little shot there? Well, it's all in fun. It's all in fun. It's all in fun. Take a quick time out. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Going to visit now with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Charles, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Carlos. I'm a little confused this morning. You're going to have to help me.
I'll try. Talk to me. What's going on?
Well, you and I talked, first of all, I'm here in St. Louis visiting family. I'm in Dr. Prince's neck of the woods, St. Louis, Mo, and visiting family. And you and I talked yesterday, and as soon as I got off the phone with you, my phone blows up, and I'm checking on, like, what's going on? A source called me. Now, you know, we're all about my sources say this, my source says this, my contacts say that. And I need you to clarify something for me, Carlos.
Mm-hmm.
A source told me A media source said starting January 1st, 2021, the Carlos Brown radio show is going to air in prime time. Is that fact or fiction? And I'm like, no, I'm saying to myself, well, I don't know about that. I've known Carlos a while. He would have thrown that out there and mentioned that. And I'm saying, well, why would you say that? And he said, Charles, you know why. You know why you go on prime time, and left it just like that. So clear it up for the Carlos. That's not conviction.
Well, I would like to know who that source was, but you never reveal your sources. That's one. Two, the toughest thing that I may have is during his press conference. That's when I first noticed Coach Prime. And then I saw him on social media saying, you have to address me as Coach Prime. Now, somebody help me out. Was he being facetious, or does he really mean that? So at Swag Media Day, if I say Coach Sanders, he will not take my question?
I think
and to answer your question, no, that's not true in Prime. No.
I'm just messing with you.
Oh, I know.
Hey, if that's how he wants to be addressed, I think that because the bottom line is you want information out of him. And if that's what he wants to be called, if he has made it known, if he says it to you and says it to others, if you want the information, because that's all you're looking for, you try to get an interview. If that's what it takes, then you got to do. I don't think it's bowing down. It's giving him what he wants, and vice versa. You're giving him what he wants, he's going to give you what you want. So I would leave it at that.
So that means you're going to say Coach Prime. I don't know. Ooh, I got to be careful because I know how I am. If I say Coach Sanders, do you think he will just bypass me? Say I'm not gonna talk to you if you don't address me. See, I actually thought it was a bit at first, but I don't know what to think now.
You're interviewing him for 15 minutes, and however long you're going to interview him, you may not interview him for a while after that. So I think for that little short period of time, if you really want to interview him and you want to get some good, I don't have an issue with it. Personally, if that's what he wants to be called, because I know I'm going to ask him some pretty decent questions to get the most out of him while I got him, because we know how media day is. You get him when you get him. You get the most out of these coaches while you got them. Hey, I don't have an issue with it. It doesn't bother me one bit. Okay, Coach Prime. All right, who's your starting quarterback out there? I don't dig deep into that at all. If that's what he wants to be called, and if he's not going to answer your question, if he's called anything else, then you got a decision to make. Either you're not going to do it and not going to interview him, or you're going to call Coach Prime a couple of times. I would probably just say one time and just ask him a bunch of questions and be done with it, instead of we're here with Coach Prime. We're here with Coach Prime. He's talking to us live for Swag Football Media Day. You can accomplish what you want and give him what he wants without going that far with it. That's just the way I would look at it.
Well,
you understand my point. You have a responsibility to interview him, and he has a responsibility to give you whatever information that he's going to give you. So my thing is that, look, for this period of time, 15 minutes or however long you're going to interview him, even if it's a 30-minute interview, you could refer to Coach Prime a couple of times and let it roll off your back and keep it moving. Because the bottom line is you still need him you don't need him, but you want him for information. So my thing is that it's our responsibility, me, you, Dr. Prince, whether it's Dr. Cavill, HBCU Digest, whatever. It's our responsibility to interview these folks and get out what we need to get out to them so they can give us what we need. And if that's what they want to be called, hey, I think over a period of time, do I think that's going to stay? No, I don't. I think it's all new, it's fresh, the new car smell. Yeah, he's saying that right now, but we'll see in 6 months whether he's still going to stick to that or not. If you call him Coach Sanders, it may roll off his back by then. But for right now, I get it. I understand it. but we're not interviewing them right now. I mean, some people are, some media outlets probably are, and everybody's lining up to get an interview with him. I'm sure you probably have thought about it. But if that's what it takes to get him, hey, I don't have a problem.
Wait a minute, you say that last part that wait a minute, I'm trying to be clear on it, because I noticed over the years, like, let's say, for example, when Coach Pettaway was just on, and I'll say Coach Pettaway, but Coach Van Pettaway, I introduce him. I don't have to say Coach Van Pettaway every time I ask him a question. I may say Coach.
Right.
You know, and then take it from there. So if he wants to be called Coach Prime, and that's the only way he wants to be addressed, then you have to decide whether if you do it, fine.
Correct.
If you don't, well, you know what it is. Because you're there, and I understand how it works. For example, Charles, you remember a couple of years ago, who were the writers around the most? The camera people. It was Coach Fobbs, because he was coming off a championship, right?
Right.
And then you see Coach McNair. I noticed the crowd was around him because he's coming off a championship.
Right.
They're going to 2021, if it goes the right way, everyone's going to be around Coach Sanders because he's new to the conference. He brings excitement. We've seen that with other coaches that have come in for the first time. Yeah.
Jay Hobson.
Well, yeah. And so
I mean, and I can relate to all the Deion Sanders hype because we've been through the hype. We've been through the hype at Alcorn with Jay Hobson. The same types of conversations, for the most part, were had when Jay Hobson was hired. He didn't have the star power. He wasn't, NFL Hall of Fame. He didn't have that type of cachet. But we all know why Jay Hobson got the attention that he got.
Let's just put it out there. You know why?
Correct.
He was white.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the same time, we all know I've been through that. So I get it. I get all the hype. And the thing about it, when Hobson arrived, he improved the program from the year before. And then we all know what happened after that while he was there. But Hobson wasn't the type that he wasn't the outgoing type like a Deion Sanders. Hobson would get in his car and go home and get ready for the next game. And people appreciated that. Well, that's not who Deion Sanders is. Deion wants to build up the program. He wants to build up the brand. I get it. That's who he is. And if he's successful at it, no one's going to say a word because he can back it up. But if he doesn't, then I think life and business will dictate that as well. So, a lot of folks have asked me about it, and I'm like, look, I first of all, I start with the athletic director, Ashley Robinson, who will make it happen. I found out yesterday, I think he might have said it in an interview, that the process, the marriage took 6 months, which I can understand. I get it, because if you're going to get a figure like that,
relationship.
That's right. It's going to take time for that. I get that. Jay Hobson was hired in a period of probably 30 to 45 days. Our president led, at the time, Dr. Christopher Brown, he led that charge. And for those who might not remember, Jay Hobson turned the job down at first when Dr. Brown interviewed him. But then they came back to the table and they made it work. So, I mean, I get why it took as long as it did, but then you understand the other chain of events, why Hendricks was let go. I think Ashley Robinson was in a no-lose situation. He had T.C. Taylor there, and Deion was not going to come on board. He already had T.C. Taylor. So, you hear the phrase win-win. It was a win-win for Ashley Robinson and Jackson State all the way around. Deion didn't come on board. He had a Jacksonian waiting in the wings. If Deion took it, then here we are. So I get all of it. I'm not mad with him about it. At some point in time, if you're a historical program like a Southern, like a Jackson, like a Grambling, when you've had poor success or no success, at some point, you got to roll the dice and go for it all. Because see, other programs are passing you by. Other programs are getting better. You got FAMU coming in. You got Bethune coming in. Alcorn going out. So you say, why not us? And why not make this bold move? It was bold, no doubt about it. But at some point, when you've had mediocrity, and I think we can all say that follow this conference, Jackson State football has been that mediocre. A couple of years ago, they had a good run, played for the Eastern Division at Alcorn, lost 24-3. At some point, you got to go for it. And I think Jackson State, Ashley Robinson, the administration, they're going for it. It's a win-win for Deion. He's getting coaching experience. It's a win for Jackson State due to the name. Hopefully enrollment will go up. Hopefully the program's coffers will be flush with cash and money. But, you know, if I'm Deion, okay, the first thing I'm going to ask my athletic director, I'm sure they've had these meetings already, but, you know, I know I'm going to get the plush office. I know my weight room's going to be improved. My practice facility's going to be improved. All the tangible things that you see are going to improve. But the first question that I would ask, how's my compliance office looking? Because you're going to get 4 stars, high 3s, 4s, maybe a handful of 5s that are interested in the program. And if you're going to bring them to your program, if you're going to sign them, and you bring them for a visit, with the new rules, you got to be eligible when you walk on their campus for a visit. So that's the one thing that I'm thinking about. Like, you got to have more people surrounding that football program in terms of compliance. Not saying they're doing a bad job; they're doing a really good job. Matter of fact,
they're doing pretty good for what I've been told.
And Jason Cable, who's the assistant commissioner now, got 2 $900,000 grants when he was at Jackson State to help bolster that unit. So I'm sure they're doing a good job now, but you're going to need more people because there's going to be more interest. That would be my first question. I know all the other bells and whistles. I'll probably get that over time, but you got to have your players eligible, whatever it is, 4-star, 4.5. Yes.
One thing that I will give much kudos and credit to Ashley Robinson, that is one of his strengths. Compliance is a strength, so he could help Deion navigate through that compliance piece. So I don't think that's going to be part of the learning curve, if you would.
Well, I'll say that. I mean, if you hire a coach, yes, it would be. But I think because already you read on social media that there's a 5-star that's interested in Jackson State, and I'm sure you'll probably hear and read about more. But that's the one thing. That's the one thing that I'm looking at, just for my opinion, making sure all those kids that are on that field, and of course, through APR, you can't just toss away kids that are on scholarship already. So he's going to have to look at that roster. He's going to have to make some decisions. And, you know, hopefully everything will be above board. I'm not saying they haven't been, but it's just been turned up another notch when you make this hire. You know, with another type of coach, with another personality, it probably is no big deal. With Jay Hobson, he already kind of knew and understood. So it was no big deal. But this is different. I mean, because Deion's bringing the star power. He's bringing a lot of hype and a lot of stuff with it. Nothing negative, but I'm just saying when you have that, you know, things tend to have sometimes, you know, and I think Deion's very much aware of compliance, but I'm just saying, just to make sure that you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's, hiring a few more people in compliance wouldn't be a bad idea, just to make sure you don't step in a pothole. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, I think they'll be all right in compliance. They've done an outstanding job. And you remember this press conference, that was one of the things that attracted him to the job. You know, academically, and the FCS level, they've been outstanding. They haven't had any problems in that. And when you're recruiting now, you know, day one, if I'm interested in Charles Edmond, I think the first thing you're going to look at, besides the film, you're going to go and look at, you know, is he eligible? Because if not, I won't even waste my time. And so, in that essence, I think they'll be all right. Look, we can have all our opinions, and you've seen them shared on this show, from on social media. The bottom line is, you'll be judged on wins and losses, and he puts his student athletes in a position to continue to make the grade. To me, that's the bottom line. And we don't know right now what will happen. We can't say it's a great hire because we don't know yet. We'll probably get a good indication in a couple of years.
Well, the question is, well, first of all, if Deion Sanders is looking at Charles Edmond to be in his football program, Deion Sanders needs to be fired today.
Not football, huh?
I agree with you. Yes, they'll have their I's dotted, T's crossed. There's no question about that. It's going to take some time. People need to, preach patience, and that's something that's hard to come by nowadays. But yes, it will take time, and we will see. They open up with Valley. That's not going to be an easy game by any stretch, because Valley always plays you tough. We'll see how it all unfolds. But we got 5 months to hype it up and talk about it, or not talk about it.
Well, fall 2021. That's what I'm looking at. The spring is fine, but it doesn't matter. Can you believe I'm saying this? Southern doesn't get to the championship in 2020 spring. No big deal. It's a pandemic. Nah, you don't believe that, do you? I know. On that note, Charles, we will talk with you real soon. Enjoy your vacation and enjoy yourself back at home.
Appreciate it. Y'all be safe out there. Wear your mask. Do your part.
All right. On that note, I want to thank Brandon B.J. Jones, Morel Mo Carter, Coach Van Pettaway, Charles Edmonds, Dr. Michael Prince, and those of you who interacted with the show. Didn't get a chance to read as many as I would have liked, but I'll do it for the next time. Don't forget, support Black media. Donations to this show, Cash App, The Carlos Brown Show. Until next Saturday at 10 a.m., be safe. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And peace. And God bless.